So I happen to believe that Star Trek may have been instrumental in predicting some baseball stuff, specifically Shohei Ohtani. Deep Space Nine was a Star Trek that was about not a ship, but more of kind of like a bus station for spaceships, if you will. It was at the edge of a portal, a wormhole, sorry. And the commander, not captain, the commander of that ship was a young man by the name of Benjamin Sisko. This gentleman right here. Benjamin Sisko was an avid baseball fan, even though he grew up in the 24th, 25th century. And in his quest for baseball, he can go to this thing called the holodeck. On the holodeck, he's able to look up some of his favorite and some of the most impactful characters in baseball. They list names like Ted Williams, number 42, obviously, Jackie Robinson, but they also had this fictitious character by the name of Book Boda. Now, the funny thing about Book Boda is he's not actually on a real team. He's made up as somebody who plays for the London Kings. All right. But at one point in time, Sisko referred to him as one of the best, if I'm not mistaken, I want to go back and make sure I look this up, but as the best baseball player that walked the planet Earth. Now, Buck ain't no Shohei Ohtani. He's not a two-way player. In fact, he was a switch hitter that went from being a third baseman to a second baseman. He has a recurring role in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine series. But that's not the part that I'm focused on. The part I'm focused on is the fact that out of all of the cultures that they have in the Star Trek world to explore, of all of the cultures that the entire universe have, even all of the cultures that are just on the planet Earth, they saw fit to make the best player of baseball before baseball was phased out because only 300 people came to like the last game. The writers, Rick Berman and Michael Piller, saw fit to make the most impactful player of the lifetime of Avery Brooks, of Sisko, or at least of his interest, to be of Asian descent. Did they know something we didn't know? I mean, these are episodes that are coming out in the early 90s. And so we're probably only looking at like the dawn of the age of Ichiro, Hideki Matsui. These are some of the prominent Asian players back in that day. And perhaps the rise of those Asian players' prominence led them to believe in the Star Trek writing rooms that if we're going to continue this sport, then we're probably going to see a lot of Asian dominance in this sport. And this is not any hate. I'm a huge Yamamoto fan, a huge Shohei Ohtani fan, even bigger Shota Imanaga fan for some reason. I just think he's hilarious. I'm even a Tom Sugar fan, Tomoka Sugano over in Baltimore. I'm a fan of these folks. Look, I don't have any problem with the Asian takeover because I don't feel it as a takeover. I feel like it's more of an expansion of the world of baseball to other cultures that are able to manage it and navigate it in a manner that makes it marketable in the areas that they exist, right? So I'm not sitting there saying, nah, we don't want that. But I do think, what I am saying is a better way of saying it. What I am saying is that it appears at some point in time, the writers, who evidently must have been baseball fans as well, may have been considering the possibility that there may be a huge uptick in other cultures dominating this sport. All right, they could have easily chose Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth. They could have easily chose Ted Williams. They could have chose Jackie Robinson. I mean, I'm sure we do see other characters in this. They could have chose somebody with a Latino background, or with a pure African background, or Canadian, or they went with somebody who had Asian descent. And for me, who knows? Since Star Trek was the first one to give an interracial kiss on screen, since Star Trek did give us the first instances in which we saw a lot of different cultures merge into one and get along on a deck, in which you have, not in this Star Trek, but in Star Trek with Kirk, where you have an Asian and Dr. Sulu, the Russian and Chekhov. You have an American with Kirk, who came from Iowa. You got Uhura, who's from Kenya. You have all of these different cultures where they predict that there's kind of a United Nations of sorts that exists in the realm of the future. It is fascinating that they chose this young Asian man to represent the best in baseball. And here we are in the 21st century, and we're already seeing a lot of Asian dominance with the rise of folks like Yamamoto, the rise of folks like Shohei Ohtani, and the ones that I just know, even with Dave Roberts, who is half Asian.